Uh, the point is, I got to see this book and I was a little perplexed, quite frankly, and now you have heard the author speaking himself about his book, so there is not much room for me to say anything. And more especially a person like me, a country doctor in a far out grove near the Niagara Falls, speaking about the philosophical works of a professor. So here we are. But I definitely want to say thank you. I got help from two persons, one person directly and the other one indirectly. First person is Nuzat, who looked at what I wrote, and very creative criticism she provided, and I had to change things and clarify things too. And the second one is Munir Sami Saab, who introduced me to Anatomy of Criticism by Northrop Frye. That book definitely helped me look at Professor's book too, so thank you, both of you. And before I say what I wrote, let me have a couple of confessions also. That in our household, everything is owned by Nuzat except for one thing.
This is your life.
And those are the books. Her books belong to her, and my books are mine. But most of the time, the reality of matter is that somehow my books, they tend to creep from my room into her bookshelves, and I don't know how does it happen, except for the last time. Except for the last time, I saw that he had a book by Professor Kumar, Vision of Kabir. And at that time, the book definitely decided to come from her side to my side. That was the book, actually, it gave me a vantage point to look at this particular book, Hows and Whys of an Unexpected Universe. So let me share my thoughts with you. The book Hows and Whys of an Unexpected Universe by Professor Sehdev Kumar is his newest creation. He is the author, and now I just figured out there are some of the ultrasound, but I definitely added the names there. He is the author of In the Matters of Life and Death, Law and Human Destiny, The Vision of Kabir, and Lotus in the Storm. The titles of his book indicate that Professor Kumar has diverse interests and a broad range of scholarship. He has been teaching for a long time, and true to his calling as a teacher, in Hows and Whys of an Unexpected Universe, he invites, he probes, questions, and imperceptibly forwards his own ideas. In this book, the reader is taken to a journey that spans many dimensions of human existence and experience. I do not want to dwell on routine words of accolade that the book is very readable and the flow of writing triggers readers' imagination, even though those things are true. Flow of writing triggers readers' imagination. This book consists of 29 essays. Themes within each essay segue as smoothly as transition of musical notes in an orchestra. In all of the essays, the author raises many difficult questions without being prescriptive. Broadly, essays in this book are categorized in 4 parts: Wandering in an Unexpected Universe, Hows and Whys of the Universe, Estrangement from the Universe, and A New Banquet Table. Even though the titles of the categories of essays do not give the reader a clear idea what is to follow, but it offers a clue how to read this book. It is easy to sense that author wishes to handle difficult subjects, and the method of his undertaking is free association more than logical constraints, but it does not mean that the author sacrificed logic at the altar of free association. I always feel this is the true essence of an essay writing, and that is exactly what reader gets from this book. The depth and diversity of topics in these essays cover a lot of ground. Obviously, it poses a difficulty while reviewing the book, since every essay deserves a separate treatment. So I have chosen an easy path: how to read this book. And as I alluded to earlier, I got to this vantage point indirectly through his book, The Vision of Kabir. I got to this vantage point indirectly through his book, Vision of Kabir. In the very opening of that book, the professor tells us, quote, "In Brazilian rivers there exists a fish that sees with the twin lens dive. With one it surveys the watery depth in which it resides, and with another it examines the upper world of air and sunshine," unquote. I'm not sure if this is the story of the Brazilian fish or that of our professor himself. He certainly has more than one lens to look at the world, where consciousness transcends through thought, imagination, and abstraction. Professor Kumar, in his books Hows and Whys of an Unexpected Universe, has an artistic imagination, and he has an abstraction of concrete realities at the same time. Let me give you one quick example. There was an earthquake in Haiti in 2010 with a lot of devastation. Professor Kumar on page 24 describes, and I'm quoting, "The National Palace and United Nations headquarters were destroyed. Redeem yourself. The end of world is near," shouted a man. "Haitians need to reinvent themselves and find a new path to God," implored Reverend. The National Palace and United Nations headquarters were destroyed. "Redeem yourself, the end of world is near," shouted a man. "Haitians need to reinvent themselves and find a new path to God," implored Reverend Eric Toussaint outside the Rouen Cathedral. How could he do this to us?" cried a man whose 5 children lay buried under the rubble of a home. "There is no God." A woman passing by a pyre of burning bodies pulled out a copy of Bible and threw it onto the fire, unquote. So it becomes clear, the main theme of this book is human experience. Specifically in this book, there is reference to peace and violence, spirituality, and rational cognizance of phenomenology of this world. However, this book is not a book of history, and still it is the human history told metaphorically. When I say history, it does not mean chronology of events gone by. I mean history in the broadest sense of the human triumphs and tribulations that cast the shadow of today onto the future. Professor Kumar chooses to tell us in his essay At the Banquet Table of History that history is told by victors. Yes, indeed. But discipline of history has far more to it than the passivity of the storyteller. Marx's contribution to historiography. Eric Hobsbawm, a British historian, in one of his seminal essays, Marx's contribution to historiography, states that times are gone when history was told in terms of race, when history was told in terms of victors. History is no longer a narration of, quote, kings, wars, and treaties, unquote. It means human race has reached a point where true understanding of history comes from study of society and people and their existential experiences. It is a method in historiography that does away with simple narratives and focuses on the undercurrents that make history. Within this method, at the banquet table of history, we get to a deeper understanding of history of peace and violence in the human society. Peace and violence have been a constant presence in the human history. Professor Kumar wonders on page number 151, quote, "Civilization is indeed a very good idea, but how often and how far are we from it is a numbing thought," unquote. Even though human history of that of violence with short few interludes of peace, it takes me to thinking of Sigmund Freud. It takes me to thinking of Sigmund Freud, who said, quote, "It is impossible to overlook the extent to which civilization is built upon renunciation of instinct," unquote. I wonder, is ever-present violence in human history a proof of instinctual expression that civilization tries to do away? I guess the real question is the human quest as to how to tame the instinct. Quran says, and I'm quoting, "We have created the human in the best make," unquote. Violent instinct in the human psyche, as contradictory to the assertion as it may be, Quranic best make creation, the human, has invented the methods and the capacity to annihilate the very existence of all life. It is a scary thought, but that is exactly where Professor Kumar shines. Throughout the book, directly or indirectly, he speaks of peace and violence, even though earlier I said that he is not prescriptive, but he proffers love as the only savior of future human existence. No wonder he speaks of Bhagat Kabir with such great reverence. Professor Kumar, in this book, the way he seamlessly moves from one strand of thought to the other, from facts to theoretical abstractions, is his creativity. It could not have been possible without using Freudian method of free association, where a stream of thought is free-flowing while capturing the mind and the unconscious. This method of free association employed in the book captures lots of things and yet leaves room for the reader for creative perception and interpretation. Northrop Frye in Anatomy of Criticism speaks of literature in terms of comedy and tragedy. Using Northrop Frye's method again, ethical treatment of characters in these essays is very fluid, that makes it difficult to see whether a particular essay falls under category or tragedy question mark. I think it may not be out of place to point out that ethics in literary criticism is not a moral judgment, but a relationship of characters in the plot. Comedy in literature is when main character, the hero, integrates with the society, and the tragedy is when hero fails to integrate. In these terms, Professor Kumar's book of essays brings out comedy and tragedy at the same time. I said it before, but let me reiterate that Professor Kumar's book is the human story. As true as it is that it is a human story which is unfolding in front of all of us, I wonder if human story in this book, Hows and Whys of an Unexpected Universe, needs to be told, or perhaps it is a story better untold. I guess Professor has the answer when he quotes Bernard Shaw in the preface, quote, "You see things and you say why, but I dream things that never were, and I say why not? The way human story is told in this book, I say why not?" Kudos, Professor, why not?
Thank you very much, TAHIR QAZI. Wonderful review, sharing your thoughts and inspirations. We want to make one announcement that I saw Munir Sami and Javed Danish. Just before I forget, how the Javed Danish will